Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Marquette, and we're so glad you're with us to stay curious inside the Orbital processing facility of the Space Shuttle with one of its reputed managers, Mr. Terry White. Hello, Terry.
Hey, I'm glad to be here.
Well, I'm glad you're here. We privilege that you want to join our team here of Stay Curious at the American Space Museum. That's right, Terry will be presenting a segment every month that we're going to call Terry's Garage, Terry's Shuttle Garage, and maybe we'll get Jay Leno involved in it.
Yeah.
We're pleased to have you here in our lineup as Stay Curious keeps growing here at our nonprofit. Did you know, Terry, that we have been open as a museum for over 21 years?
And a lot of people don't realize it. I keep telling them they need to come down here and see the fabulous facility that you have.
Well, that's why we're gonna keep you happy here on Stay Curious, so you can tell all your friends here in the Space Coast that you worked with. Terry, we're going to have him on once a month. We've got Hugh Harris talking about shuttles of the month. Mikey Haddad is our payloads guy. He'll be on next in 2 weeks. And you, and that is so important. Terry, give us a little background about yourself as we get used to seeing your face on Stay Curious. Where'd you grow up, and how'd you get in the shuttle business?
Okay, well, I grew up in multiple states around the country. My dad worked for North American Aviation, so wherever he was going with the aircraft that the Navy was testing, that's where we went. And when I was 11 and 12 years old, we were at Pax River Naval Air Station in Maryland, and that's where all the Navy and Marine test pilots go. So a couple of my neighbors were young test pilots by the name of Alan Bean and John Young. Little did I know that they would go on to be astronauts and that I would go on to build the vehicle that John Young would take into space. So it was pretty amazing to know them in their younger days and then get to see them again when they were astronauts.
That is something there for sure. Well, we're going to tell more about your history and some of the things he's been involved in. A lot of people know Terry at Kennedy Space Center. Terry White's a name that was a go-to name to give tours. Just mention that a little bit, that you become very knowledgeable, but also kind of a talkative fellow, maybe.
Yep.
That was the right person to show dignitaries around the facility.
Yep. And it was odd because people didn't always remember my name, but they said, hey, if you have a problem or you need help with something, go find the guy with the mustache.
There you go.
So people would ask for the guy with the mustache, and I'd be paged to the ops desk. So,
speaking of mustaches, I saw a mustachioed astronaut today, Mr. Winston Scott. Dr. Winston Scott gave a wonderful program to the Boys and Girls Club just about a half a mile from our museum. And he said hi to you.
Yeah, he's a great guy. We always talk when we run into each other, so spend a few minutes talking.
Yeah, Winston's good. He's good people. He does a lot for our community here. Was at Florida Institute of Technology for many years, and had his red Corvette out there, and laid his wonderful story, because he came out of poverty in Miami into integration times and become a Navy Top Gun.
Yes.
And just a hell of a man. We appreciate everything Winston Scott's done for our museum. And you're going to hear more about that tomorrow when I'll show you some pictures of that there. But Terry, we always do a little bit of space history on Stay Curious, but also we have a fundraiser going on for our carpet that we're going to close the museum for 3 weeks, starting July 18th. And Marty Winkle, my co-producer, is telling us to move around a little bit here. There you go. You can own these beautiful Cali artwork T-shirts, father and son, renowned artists around the world. $25 and $22 plus shipping. Many of you have responded. It's pre-order. Thank you, Dave Stange and Larry Pusker. Got your orders. Okay, and we will be shipping them out hopefully maybe late next week, but they're a good quality shirt. Also a woman's shirt available. And there, just take your phone out and do that little squiggly thing with that we've all learned to do, the QR code. That's what, is it, QR or QCR? I don't know.
Got me, I don't use it.
You don't use it. Anyway, QR code. Paul and Chris Cowley there. Many years ago, the father, Chris, passed away about 12 years ago. Paul, is the father. One of the first 8 true artists allowed on Kennedy Space Center during Gordon Cooper's launch in 1963 to document with their pen and ink, pastel colors, whatever. So both these gentlemen have over 40 U.S. postal covers to their credit, too. And here is Chris Calley's most recent artwork. Look at that. Tribute to Artemis,
Yes.
going back to the moon. He debuted that. Chris did at the Astronaut Hall of Fame about a month ago. We want to wish a happy birthday, Terry, to this guy. Pinky Nelson is 72 years old today. All right. And Pinky, I was looking for my hat, Marty. Pinky deserves my hat. Must be on, we'll do the hat next time. Born July 13th, 1950 in Charles City, Iowa, but he considers Wilmar, Minnesota to be his hometown. This is a pioneering astronaut. Did you ever do much with Pinky in the early days?
In the early days, no, I did not. So. 3
shuttle flights, but all before 1988, okay. He was on the return to flight of after Challenger on STS-26 in 88. STS-41C is when he famously did the spacewalk. There's Pinky in his astronaut days and his signature. But there he is, Marty, at the bottom at the 5 o'clock at the Solar Max telescope. Just didn't work out the way they wanted to, but he was trying to bring back on the manned maneuvering unit this satellite, and I think it was Bob Crippen ended up catching it with the remote manipulator arm and bringing it in the next day. But Pinky Nelson, a real pioneering shuttle astronaut. Would you agree that they did things that first 5 years that were all unknown?
Yes, and a lot of things that no one envisioned that they could do.
Mm-hmm. And there's Pinky. I put that picture back up because Bob Seek, who launched 52 shuttle missions and was an important shuttle manager and a friend of our museum, Bob Seek said every time he saw Pinky on Kennedy Space Center, he envisioned a youthful blonde carrying a surfboard under his arm heading out to the beach. And the happy 72nd birthday, Pinky Nelson, a real important astronaut in the annuals of our 30-year career. Shuttles, 11 shuttles, Terry, that you were involved with in your career in the month of July, hot month of July. That involved 68 crew members, 15 of which were women, which is a pretty good ratio for a month as we track that on our shuttle history here on Stay Curious. Did you know today, this morning, was the anniversary in 1995 of STS70 being launched?
Okay.
All right. And that is known as the Woodpecker Buckeye mission because 4 of the 5 astronauts were from Ohio, which I'm a Buckeye from Ohio. Okay. For 25 astronauts from Ohio. We'll see a picture of them in a minute. And you're going to tell us about the Woodpeckers. But we're going to admire this beautiful shot by by Tom Usiak, the older brother of Mark Usiak. I think they were both there with Steve Nolte, their team of photographers there. And what a gorgeous shot there. Mostly steam coming off in the back there as the SRBs ignite. And this, Terry, is an interesting photograph taken on July 13th, 1995, because we've got Discovery taking off of pad 39B, the new pad. And what orbiter's on the pad 39A?
We had multiple times we had 2 orbiters out at the pads at the same time, or 2 shuttles. So I don't recall exactly who was on the other pad on pad A that
day. I consult my shuttle scroll here. That's you'll get to know my sacred shuttle scroll. It's got all kinds of good info on it. The next launch after STS-70 was STS-69, and Terry will elaborate over his appearance here, why these things get out of number whack. Basically, because you got to keep track of it, right?
Yes.
69 was launched in September 7th. So July, August, September. Yeah, okay. Yeah. It could be out the pad that early, right?
Out the pad for several months, yes.
Okay, so that's what's out there. The bird out there is Endeavour. So you got Discovery being launched and Endeavour in the foreground. Tom Usiak nailed that shot. Beautiful, isn't it?
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about STS70, which was a TDRS tracking data relay satellite. In fact, it was the replacement for the one that we lost on Challenger. Why we got the woodpecker patch there, Woody Woodpecker and all.
Well, the woodpeckers decided to go out, and we had other instances of birds landing or attempting to land on the space shuttle, on the orbiter, but especially on the external tank. And this time they land on there. They did not do any damage to the orbiter to speak of, but they did a lot of damage to the tank, trying to find insects. They pecked holes into it. They attempted repairs at the pad, and they could not get all the repair work done at the pad, so they actually had to roll back to do all the work to repair the foam before they could go launch. And after that, to ward off the birds, we tried different owls and different models out there to try and keep them away. Ultimately, what worked was taking technicians and other people that had clearance to go to the pad, and they would set up on the levels with an air horn and blast the air horn at the birds to keep them away. So a lot of the admins liked it because there was a good chance for them to get a lot of overtime by sitting out there at the pad and keeping the birds off of the... Jay Honeycutt didn't like it, but...
Really? Center director?
He was the center director.
Paying $25 an hour for people to shoot an air horn, and how many... What kind of federal FedEx delivery truck brought the air horns in every day?
I don't recall that, but I did find a woodpecker T-shirt and gave it to Jay, and he still got it now.
Is that right?
Yes.
Jay Honeycutt, another awesome friend of Stay Curious. Hello, Jay. Peggy watches the show and chimes in, his wife, from time to time. That was a northern flicker woodpecker, in fact. Over 200 holes poked into it. But there's another aspect, and this is from, where's that photo from, Terry? A security camera?
Yeah, it looks like it's above the 207 foot level, so I don't know exactly where that camera is. There's so many cameras out there at the pad, it's hard to recall where they're all from unless you can see something really detailed in the background.
Well, the other anomaly that they brag about is 4 of the 5 astronauts born in Ohio. Commander Tom Hendricks is from Woodville, Ohio. Pilot Kevin Kriegel is from Amityville, New York. So they had the governor of Ohio make him an honorary Buckeye. Don Thomas is a well-known Cleveland Heights, Ohio astronaut on his second flight. Nancy Curie's from Troy, Ohio, above Cincinnati. I have some friends that live in Troy. I'm from Findlay, Ohio, actually, south of Toledo. And Mary Ellen Weber's from Bedford Heights, Ohio, another Cleveland suburb. It's her first flight. So,
and Terry White is from Perry County, Ohio.
Are you?
About 70 miles southeast of Columbus.
All right. Well, I didn't know that. Perry County. All right. Well, what's the town?
A little town called Junction City.
Junction City?
Yeah, I was actually
Petticoat Junction City?
Actually born outside of town. I was one of those that decided to come out at home. So.
Huh. That's interesting. Well, that's a whole different world down there. The terminal moraine didn't level stuff down. There's kind of hilly in that part of Ohio, right? Ohioans certainly have a thing for flying. Wilbur and Orville Wright, okay. Yeah. John Glenn's from Cambridge. Wilbur and Orville from Dayton.
John Glenn, the high school I would have gone to if I hadn't moved, his high school and my high school were rivals. So.
Really?
Yes.
Cambridge?
Yeah.
Cambridge,
Ohio. Down in that same area.
Moonman Neil Armstrong from Wapakoneta, and over every state, Terry, has at least one astronaut born there, except Marty, 4 of them. That'd be a good Jeopardy question. Alaska, Nevada, Vermont, and Wyoming.
Okay.
Now that I'll have to, as of maybe last year, but I'm pretty sure that's accurate. So, well, this is what we like to do, Terry, is talk about the shuttles of the month with people that lived it. And I wanted to ask you, because this is the month of return to flight after the Columbia disaster, 114 in 2005. What was the morale like? What were you involved with of the return to flight? Well, and of course, Eileen Collins being the commander.
Yes, a very nice lady, and she really liked to come down. That the whole crew liked to come down to the Space Center because they do most of their training in Houston, but come down here and actually walk around the floor and talk to the people who were working on the vehicle. She would take time out of her schedule and go out and sit down in the break room and have coffee and just talk to the technicians and the engineers and the quality. So
What was your role in Orbiter Discovery, getting back to space?
well, several things, but one primary role was I was kind of the godfather of the thermal protection system. So I was involved in a lot of the modifications and different things on the outside of the orbiter, but I was also then manager for the forward and the inside and out and the mid-body. Mm-hmm. So I had multiple roles on getting the vehicles ready.
And how many people under you, responsible for at any given time?
At times I had over 200 technicians.
Is that right?
That I was responsible for. Yes.
Huh.
Yep. So, and that was spread out over 3 shifts and 3 bays, but there weren't a lot of hands-on people that actually did the work, the mechanics, the electricians, and the thermal protection technicians on the vehicles. There was a lot of people having to support them to get it done, but actually hands-on, there wasn't that many people. So,
well, we're going to learn more about that as we evolve with Terry on the shuttle garages. Very fascinating. We're going to get to the garages here just a second as there's the crew from STS114 out at the rescue situation there, the Zipline.
yes.
Up there.
The emergency escape system from the pad in case something went wrong. They would get in baskets and go down those slide wires there to exit away from the vehicle.
Did you have any involvement with that?
No, no, sir.
Okay.
Nope.
They ever come by and need to borrow some grease off of you or anything like that?
No, but I did volunteer to ride the basket down, but they said
I think
no.
everybody did that.
Yeah. But only 3 people ever rode it down to my knowledge. So
who's that?
George Hoggard was for the fire department. He rode it down, and I forget who the other 2 were, but there was only 3 people to my knowledge in the shuttle program.
Triple T's told us it was astronaut Marty, help me.
There was one astronaut.
NASA director under Obama.
Charlie Bolden.
Charlie Bolden went down the basket twice. Triple T says on there, and we got up there, and when they had this extra long pole video, situation on the extra long arm on the Canadian arm to look underneath it, so forth. But this picture reminds you of Steve Robinson that did an EVA.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Well, we detected that there were 2 gap fillers that were protruding. They are a special substance that goes between some of the tiles to prevent heat from getting down in the gap between the tiles. Well, 2 of them were protruding, and they were worried about it causing excessive heating on re-entry. So they wanted to go out and remove the gap fillers. We were concerned that they might do more damage because it's not designed for an astronaut to go underneath. There's no place for them to hang on to, and that inside the payload bay, there's plenty of handholds. But so he went out on a spacewalk and went underneath the vehicle, went up to the gap fillers, and he told me afterwards they had built some special tools to remove them, but based on the pictures we saw, he should just have to reach out with his hand, his gloved hand, and pull them out. And that's exactly what he did. He pulled the 2 gap fillers out. That eliminated the situation of the overtemp, and he went back inside. He also took the first photos ever taken from underneath the orbiter with a handheld camera. So,
and then a few days later, they landed. Looking at when did they land on there? 114 on my other chart here. They landed in August 5th. Yeah, August 5th.
But when they landed and they got off and got a chance to get cleaned up and that, he came down and he came over to me and he handed me the 2 gap fillers. He said, "Here, these are for you."
Is that right?
Yeah. So later on,
right there on the tarmac of the KSC runway.
Yep. Wow. He said he knew they'd be in good hands if he gave them to me. So, eventually they went to the Smithsonian, but he came back later and we had made up a plaque with another gap filler, not the ones he removed, but because we knew people would ask him, what the heck was a gap filler? So we made it up for him, and we actually gave him a special certification because you're not allowed to remove gap fillers without training and a certification. So we gave him his certification card saying he was qualified to remove gap fillers. So
that's interesting.
He always looks me up when he's in the area.
Huh. We'll look him up and bring him in here to stay curious. Well, after this successful flight, Terry, part of the shuttle story is that from 114, the next flight was 121, out of sequence again number-wise, and that was flown a year later, launched on July 4th, the only crewed American mission launched on the 4th of July, our Independence Day. And that was STS-121. So why did we have a year gap and a reflight of the reflight? And how was the morale about that?
Well, the morale was pretty good because we were back to flying. Okay, when we had the big delay before 114, morale was still good, but the fact that we were not returning to flight had a lot of people worried. But once we went back to flight, and then we had a lot of things to do, and I don't know why the span was exactly that long, but when we determined that the gap filler was a problem, we had to totally come up with a new method of installing the gap fillers to make sure that they would not come out again. And we subsequently had to remove thousands of gap fillers that were on the orbiter and replace them with the new process after we tested it and assured it would work.
All the orbiters.
Yes.
Right. All
yes.
the orbiters.
Yep.
So, and also there was foam coming off the ET that was of concern.
Still. Yes.
Still that. Once 114 landed, they grounded the program for a year. That's why I asked you about the morale. Was it? But it was still full steam ahead, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Cool.
And all the modifications that we had to do, which was the situation for every problem that we picked up, that was considered a monumental problem, we had to go back and retrain everybody once we came up with a new process and then go replace the parts that required it. And it was odd because of all the different, not only at Kennedy Space Center and Johnson, but Ames and other NASA centers trying to come up with a acceptable solution for installing the gap fillers. A technician here at Kennedy Space Center had the best success rate, and he came up with the process to install the gap fillers and make sure they would stay. So he got a special center director's award for that.
Who was that?
A gentleman by the name of John Kuhn, Kuhn.
Hey, John Kuhn, just another one of our what I call national treasures of our American space program, very seriously. That's how we look at him here at the American Space Museum, because we celebrate the space worker like Terry White here, who is our debut performance with Terry on Stay Curious. Hope you're enjoying these stories about Terry's Garage. Here it is. There's Terry's Garage there. Home away from home, I guess, huh?
And that's my office was in part of OPF-1.
And when they designed them, did they really not design it tall enough for the rudder?
Well, they did. You can see that they had a special.
I see they did afterwards. Cut a hole in that. Okay, let's get
that's a special door that are designers were accurate in having a door to clear the vertical stabilizer. But there was a lot of other things that the original designers did not envision. All the things we had to do to get an orbiter ready from one flight to the next. So we're constantly modifying the building, modifying the platforms and that, just so we could work on the vehicle. The vehicle was designed to be turned around from one flight to the next in the orbiter processing facility in a matter of a couple of weeks. You know, the shortest flow in there was a month. So, you know, it took a long time. Most of the flows were 3 to 4 months. To get the orbiter in there, take it apart from its last flight, remove whatever payload came back, whatever interfaces with the payload came back, do the detailed inspection from nose to tail 100%, as many as 5 times, looking for any anomalies, taking out the engines, changing the tires, repacking the wheel bearings. So some of the same types of things you would do to your car, we had to do, but we had to do it after every time we used it. So just...
Here's the inside of what we're calling the Shuttle Garage, the Orbital Processing Facility. And we have an early model of it here at our museum.
Yes.
That was built to show the Nixon administration what they were talking about. When 50 years ago we celebrated our Shuttle Fest in April, the 50th anniversary of Congress coming up with $5.5 billion to fund the program on there. So we're looking forward to Terry telling us more stories and how this whole operation worked. It's a tight fit in there, Terry.
It is, and right now the platforms are back away from it, but we tow it in with a tug from the runway after we'd safed it at the runway. But this is still an extremely hazardous vehicle. So once we get it in, we're restricted to the number of people we can even have in the building.
Hazardous in what way?
Well, it's still got all the hazardous fuels and oxidizers and pyros. So we really restrict how many people can come in there in the first few days until we can get it safe. But we get it in the hangar and get it up to its maintenance height position, which is a little bit higher than it is when it rolls in on its wheels. And then we lower all the platforms around it because we try and close up all the gaps around the orbiter, between the orbiter and the platform, to less than 6 inches. That way we don't have to wear fall protection. We're working at heights, and fall protection could damage the orbiter as you're working around it, because the outside of the orbiter is as fragile as an eggshell. So yeah, so once we get it in there and then we go to work, and there's, like I said, multitude of inspections, and the payload customer always wants their payload as soon as we can get it in there. But live animals and that, we took them out at the runway.
Okay.
We didn't get into the OPF with live animals, but so.
We're going to learn so much, so amazing. Terry's already given me a bunch of photographs that he's personally taken. We're going to see a couple here. Stay curious. And Marty, you got a question? We're glad Mark Usiak's watching. Dave Stengy. We got Rebecca McNair. Travis White is watching.
Yeah.
Is he a kin of yours?
He's my son. He's currently over in Iraq.
And he's in Iraq, yes.
And Rebecca McNair.
Travis, thank you for serving our country. We've got a Marine Marty in here also.
Yeah, and Rebecca McNair is my daughter. She's watching from just north of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, with her 3 kids. So.
Good. Send gumbo, okay? I love some real gumbo, please. James Sigler, Hannah Wise is here. Tell us who we have here. Your wife's in here. What's your wife's name?
My wife is Pat.
Pat.
Yeah.
And who's your shuttle buddy here that you got?
That's Debbie Mackey. She worked with me for many years out there. She served a variety of roles, but she is the only female pad leader that we had in the OPF in the history of the shuttle program.
Well, we're glad you're here, Debbie. We're going to get you on Stay Curious and talk, Marty.
Bring them up.
Yeah, you can bring them up here if you want. Okay, you want to come up and say hi, Debbie? Or pan around there, Marty.
That's all right. Come up here, Debbie.
Yeah.
She's going to blame me for
We
this.
got Robert Laws watching from Dundee, Scotland. Make his day, Debbie. Okay, Gary Gerald's watching. Larry Pusker, appreciate you. Larry, you'll have an extra T-shirt in your packet, okay? Don't worry. Debbie, nice to see you in
Nice
there.
to see you.
Being the only female director of an OPF, is that what the title is?
Pad leader.
Pad leader, okay. And that goes from the orbital processing facility to the launch, right?
Well, in the orbiter processing facility, that's where I stayed as a pad leader.
Uh-huh.
They had other pad leaders, but they were positioned in other places, the vehicle assembly building, VAB pads A and B. So there were other female pad leaders, but not in the OPF.
Okay. Debbie Mackey's who we're talking about. When we will stay curious with you one day. What do you think of our little museum here that you're saying?
I am ashamed of myself for not ever coming over here. I really didn't know this existed.
Well, you can make it up to us by staying curious and helping our show along here, because we're thrilled. This is what we're all about, is having people like you involved in this museum. Astronaut Winston Scott is another plus, all right? That's icing on the cake. But these people are truly national heroes. They did something for 3 decades that, you know what John Blaha, astronaut, told me? It'll never be done in 100 years. He said the shuttle was so complicated and involved so many people that it'll never be done in 100 years. Again, do you guys agree with that?
Yes,
Absolutely.
It was a an amazing vehicle, way ahead of its time. It did all the things the original designers envisioned, and a lot of things they never imagined it would do.
Huh.
And it,
Cool.
Well, we're going to have more of you. Karen, were you? Did you have something to do? Were you going? Yeah. But we look forward to Debbie Mackey. Where'd you grow up, and how'd you get involved in this?
Born in Cleveland, Ohio,
All
and
right.
raised in Bedford, Ohio.
Oh, were you? Okay. All right. I have a lot of time in the Akron, Canton area too. She been to Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Been there a bunch myself. Are you a Browns fan? Well, yeah, we would
Yeah.
if we were winning more. Okay. Okay. Yeah. We always have a backup when you're a Browns fan. Okay. Mine was the Tennessee Titans for a long time.
Okay.
So, what do you have to say about reflecting this being the month of the last STS 135 and how it was just sort of how it ended and all, looking a decade later.
I was so proud to be a part of the program. We were family
Yeah.
at Kennedy, and those of us, a lot of us still remain very close friends, and we still stay in touch with one another. It was just, there'll never be another shuttle program.
No, there
There
won't.
never will
and,
be.
And the unity of people, the leadership of people like Mike Leinbach and Mike McCulley for United Space Alliance. I mean, me being an outsider, these people are dearly loved, and yet they're so humble and just blend into the woodwork in our wonderful Space
We were
Coast here. Would
truly
you agree about that?
We were
Yeah.
family, and we all grew up together, and we all took care of each other, and we truly loved what we did with our heart and soul.
Well, good. Well, we're glad to have you. This is an important part of American Space Museum, is to continue this legacy and to promote it like we're doing today with our shuttles of the month and so forth. Today in space history, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, people had a hard time understanding when we would go through periods where the government was going to shut down, and they said you're not going to be paid. We still had to maintain the orbiters. We couldn't just walk away and leave them sit there. There were things that we had to do to them every day, and they could not believe when I said, my techs will come to work. And they said, what?
Yeah.
You're going to tell them that they may not get paid for this? I said, they have so many years of blood, sweat, and tears in this, they're not going to let anything happen to this orbiter that they can control. So if I ask them to come in tomorrow and they may not get paid for it, they'll show up. And they did.
That's what I found amazing, having your pink slip in the last 3 missions, being so clean and flawless, and the pride that everybody had to the very end. I mean, public industry, isn't like that. And that's what I admire about you space workers, is though, like you said, you had your pink slip, and some people didn't even know if they were going to get paid. Really, Terry?
At times when there was government shutdown, yes, but they were willing to come to work. So.
Well, thank you, Debbie, for coming around here.
Thank you
Can't
so
wait to have
much.
you back in there. This
Thank
is
you.
what, like I said, we'll look forward to having you talk more about her career. Amazing career this woman has had, Debbie Mackey, and a real pioneer, and that's what we want to do, is inspire other women with your story, that they can do whatever they want to do, right?
Absolutely. Terry's got me involved with the docent program, and so we're
Good.
out there with Atlantis, and and trying to get back in the swing of that
Yeah.
right now.
We need good docents here at our museum
Yeah.
once in a while too, and that's what it's all about. Is we've come out of this pandemic with a game plan, and it's all about the American Space Shuttle, the most unique reusable spaceship ever, and you guys were a big part of it. So thank you.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
We got a couple other things to show Terry here, Debbie. One of them we're going to brag about you here, Terry, is we got that. Once in a while, you got an award for doing things right. Okay.
Yes.
Managing a couple hundred people in there. We've got. So what's this all about? And who's that?
I can't see which award that is. So
I think it was a Hall of Fame 2014. Yeah, Hall of Fame engineer or something.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, that's the one they put my name and granite across the the way at the big memorial here in Titusville.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So, yep. That
Okay.
was a pretty interesting thing. I got quite a few awards, but I credit my awards to the people who were working with me and for me, because I wouldn't have earned those awards if it wasn't for them accomplishing the work. I may have been their supervisor, their manager, and probably one responsible for pushing them in the right direction sometimes, but I always gave them credit for helping me to get the awards. So, and it's pretty amazing. I did receive 2 silver Snoopies.
2 silver Snoopies.
From the astronauts, yeah. And if
All
you
right.
read the description of a silver Snoopy, it's supposed to be 1 in a lifetime.
Right.
Yeah. But I've received 2, and one of them, the first one was in 1983. And then in...
Well, we've got a silver Snoopy display here at the American Space Museum. You saw it there.
Yep.
The other Snoopy, I think, was for something you were going to talk about Columbia. Is that
Yes.
what that was for?
Yep.
I
And
can
then-
see you getting verklept there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and then I was trying to think of the other award that I got, but I know. At the celebration for 30 years of shuttle flights, we had the cake boss here, and he built a space shuttle cake.
really, the Cake Boss in New Jersey, whatever on the TV
yes, was
there?
here, and it launched. So it didn't actually leave the ground, but it went up in the air, and it had flames coming out the bottom.
Oh, wow.
And that, and as part of the ceremony, I said a few words, and they announced that they were recognizing the living legends of the space shuttle program, and they gave Bob Seek the Living Legend Award for NASA.
Oh, wow.
And then they called some guy by the name of Terry White for the Living Legend from the contractor world.
Oh, my.
Yeah, so they surprised
Awesome.
me on that day. Yeah,
Huh.
Charlie Bolton was sitting there laughing at me. He says, "You didn't know this one was coming, did you?"
Well, a lot of surprises in store for this guy here on Stay Curious that can look around and see a space shuttle like this. But we've got a little surprise for you here we'd like to bring in, because I'm sure Pat knows, and Debbie knows, of course, that this is your birthday today.
I gave those up years ago.
You gave those up a year ago, and we got a little surprise here. Well, let's look at this before we're going to surprise you here with that bad timing. The orbiter, and I mean, how cool it is just to turn around and bump into an orbiter there, Endeavor. Tail number OV105.
Correct.
I've learned my numbers.
Yes.
And that's how you all referred to them, by just the numbers,
Yeah,
right?
we called them by number, not by name.
Uh-huh.
So.
And of course, the paperwork was all what you found there. So
Yes.
so here we've got. This is Terry's birthday today. So
Happy birthday.
happy birthday! Bring it over here, and we will sing. As Bob Seek taught me, it's 3, 2, 1. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Terry White. Happy birthday to you. 3 shuttle engines ignited there for you, brother.
All right, thank
on
you.
your debut show. All right. Yay. Happy birthday. And we really appreciate you being here today. As a little gift, we've got you these beautiful shuttle wheel covers there.
Okay.
On there. Those look pretty bad. All
Okay,
right.
yes.
So
Yeah,
the
you-
machine shop did a little bit of extra work
Yeah,
there.
you never knew what you were going to find out. For someone would go decorate something, you'd come in and go, "Where in the heck did these come from?" But yeah, they were constantly, putting things up there to surprise people.
Well, we appreciate you being here, Terry. Thank you for a wonderful kickoff debut show on Stay Curious of the Shuttle Garage with Terry White. And anything else you want to say to anybody? We're going to have you back once a month, buddy, maybe even more frequently. You're a wealth of information, and we
Okay.
know that you want to share it and,
Okay.
and have embraced our museum. We seriously appreciate how you've embraced our museum. It's people like this that is the future of the American Space Museum, and the future is bright. So, Terry?
And like Debbie said, I was proud to be a member of the greatest launch team that has ever been assembled, and all the things we accomplished and the camaraderie we had. So Nothing else has compared to it in the way of the aerospace business.
Well, amen to that, and you're going to learn more about that. I'm Mark Marquette, and on behalf of our whole staff here, happy birthday to you, Terry. Hope you have a great day.
Thanks,
And until we meet again tomorrow, I'm Mark Marquette, and we'll see you then to bridge the space between us.